Only 20% of people manage to maintain a diet plan for longer than 3 months. The average debt per household in the UK is now north of £60,000, and the average smoker takes 30 attempts before they manage to quit smoking. All of these problems have one thing in common, and it applies to all of us, anywhere, at any one time. Discipline. Mastering discipline means big rewards, but failing to be disciplined means a prolonged struggle. And ignoring discipline is just plain stupid. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful tips that will help you enhance your discipline easily on a daily basis, all of which have helped me a huge amount over the last few years, particularly when it comes to making money. Also, I'll announce this week's £100 cash giveaway winner. Don't worry if it's not you. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel down below and leave a comment to be eligible for next week's giveaway. So now it's time for you to force yourself to get some discipline and watch this video all the way through to the end, because we're only going to be focusing on the things that produce maximum results. So the first one then may seem relatively obvious, but stick with it because it's extremely important, particularly if you focus on it consciously and record a few things as I'll explain now. But I'm talking about removing distractions and temptation from your daily routines and habits, because in the modern world this has become, a bit of an epidemic, if I'm quite honest. It's everywhere. It takes the hard work out of maintaining discipline before you've even started, which is the great news, which is also what makes it so powerful when done correctly. So we all know we make bad decisions when we're in an emotional state. That's a fact. I don't think anybody can argue with that. But you want to think consciously about your daily routine, the surroundings within that daily routine, the distractions which affect you and steer you off course and cause you to lose discipline, and the temptations associated with those distractions. So the best little exercise you can do with this works very well. You don't have to be extremely heavy on it, but you can make notes on your phone or a scrap of paper, keep it with you. If you work on a desktop, you might want to put it on there. But every time you have something that pulls you away from task, it pulls you away from discipline and what you're trying to achieve as an end goal, make a quick note of what it was. And quite quickly, you suddenly realise it's the same things over and over. If you can then cut them out, then you are ultimately a lot more effective, and the more effective you are like that, and the more disciplined you become, the easier it becomes to be more disciplined overall, is what I'm trying to say. But you need that perspective, that aha, that realisation that certain things are actually an issue. And you also need to own up and say, look, do I actually want to do this? Because in reality, you can't have it all. Do you want it or do you not? Everybody wants to be rich, but really, are you willing to do the thing to make yourself wealthier? And that can apply to all walks of life. So a few examples to help you out with this. In terms of making money or saving money, if you work on desktop, it's a great one. You can install a Chrome extension. I forget the name of it now, I've got it, but I'll put it in the description down below. But you can install the extension and it'll tell you where you spend your time when you're on the browser. And people often think that they spend a lot of their time on social media, but it's quite horrifying, the truth, the amount of time that you actually spend on there, because all those distractions, those little ding 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 notifications, the little red circles, all designed like a fruit machine to keep sucking your attention back in, is a huge distraction from your end task, which ultimately just completely weakens your overall discipline. I'll talk about it more in a moment, but discipline is like a muscle, you want to train it, and the less that you do, and the more you're pulled away from doing those reps, if you like, maintaining discipline, the harder it becomes to continue. So make a list, be honest with yourself, and keep an eye on where your attention is going, when the distractions are, and then you can start to shape and mold your surroundings so that it doesn't happen. Because if you remove those distractions and the temptation, discipline isn't a hard thing to do then, because it's just natural. Okay, so keep reality and keep perspective of it. Notifications, apps, mobile phones, all that kind of stuff. Even having your phone on if you're working. If you work from home, you need a separate environment, because you can't have people just walking through the office and disrupting you while you're doing it. It's like reading a book, when you get halfway through a page and somebody starts talking to you, if that's just constantly happening, you're never going to actually get what you need from the book. So another one for terms of diet, think about, the temptations, the sugary stuff, the snacks, the adverts, all that kind of stuff. You can't necessarily cut them all out, but what you can do is control your surroundings. When you go to the supermarket, you order, a weekly shop or whatever it is you do, and put in a conscious divide or a conscious change, which means you don't do those things, and then when you go to the cupboard, it's just not there. particularly if you're working from home. That's a good one. Smoking was another fact we mentioned in the intro there. People that smoke often surround themselves with people that smoke, and this can be significantly trickier, and that's probably why it takes up to 30 times for somebody to quit smoking. But, you know, if you're in a work environment and there's 5 people that smoke and they all know you smoke, they call on you, you call on them, you all go out for a cigarette together, but you need to somehow kind of break that up a little bit, whether it's talking to them people, putting yourself in a separate environment. Sometimes it's easier for some people than others, but you need to change the surroundings and the environment, take away the distractions, take away the temptation and those little notifications and prompts to distract you from being disciplined. So I know that one was a bit obvious, but stick with it because the other two actually get better. But I wanted to start with the groundwork first. Just quickly to mention, this week's winner of the £100 cash giveaway is Mark Howarth. So we've been in touch with you there, Mark. Please come forward to claim the £100 cash prize. If it doesn't, we'll give you a week and then we'll do a redraw. Now, for anybody else that hasn't already subscribed or left a comment, that's all you need to do to be in with winning £100 cash on next Friday's upload. So on to tip number 2. This one we call motivation of discipline, which is ultimately consistency, because discipline is all about consistency. If you don't maintain consistency, you don't maintain discipline. Now, a lot of people think that being disciplined is this hard graft task and you have to push and fight, and possibly you might need to do that at the beginning. But if that's how it is over a prolonged period of time, it's just not going to work. You're not going to remain consistent, and you're making it harder for yourself. Quite frankly, you're doing it wrong. So motivation gets you started off, but the actual discipline and the reward of the discipline should help you continue. And if it's too much of a slog, you need to find a different way of doing it. It's more of a long-term task is what I'm trying to say. And again, another realization type thing, you need to actively accept and be consciously aware of it, that you need to make lifestyle changes and choices, not a target for 3 months. Targets can help us go forward, but ultimately what happens at the end of that 3 months, we already heard in the facts in the introduction there, that people give up on their diet after 3 months typically, and only 20% make it that far and continue. So you need to have your commitment to your goal, and you need to know what that is. It needs to be very defined. It's like a muscle, and you need to train it everywhere. So this is a very important fact, that discipline is in everything. Okay, you can't be disciplined in your work but not disciplined at home. If your desk is just a complete mess and your whole life is just chaos, you expect to be disciplined and efficient in making money? Doesn't work like that. The same with weight loss. I hate to say this, some people obviously have different genetic problems and stuff, but typically people that are overweight and can't maintain and be disciplined in their personal life with all that sort of stuff, with health and food, then they're typically not like that elsewhere too. So be aware that it is an overall effort. It is you, and you are a sum of your discipline. It's not just a case of you choose to be on that thing but not on that thing. The good news, of course, is the more disciplined you are, for the longer period that you are, the easier it becomes. And also, people around you, complete opposite of the smoking example in the previous point, people around you start to notice you're more disciplined. They start to notice the choices that you make, and then they don't ask you to do those difficult things so much. And you'll find that sometimes it pulls out more positive people who will help you head towards your goal in the route as well. So it's a long-term effort that needs to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're not going to maintain discipline and you're not going to achieve your end goal. So in terms of money, if you're overspending or saving for a holiday for a couple of months, you don't want to do that. You want to be the person that changes your lifestyle choices, a little bit more frugal maybe in certain areas where you know that it benefits you and you're just more efficient generally financially, leaving you in a better position. Knowing your why, I've heard people call it elsewhere, and there's all these kind of magical analogies that come out with it. Some are kind of helpful, I guess, but knowing your reasons for doing something is also very important. So consciously take a second to write that one down too. Why are you actually trying to achieve, lose weight or make more money or save more money? Because ultimately, if it's an empty goal, then you're not going to be motivated with your discipline over the longer term, and you're not going to remain consistent. So at this point, if you're finding this video interesting and you're committed to being disciplined, please tap the like button down the bottom in the right there. Also, now we're going to move on to the third point, which is possibly it can be the tipping point for a lot of people, which is dealing with discipline relapses. It's something that I've faced a lot within trading and work and making money. And the problem is, when you're in that emotional state or in that difficult period, it's the thing that tips you. But not only is it the thing that tips you, it's the thing that can then keep you permanently on the wrong path, losing discipline. So you need to recognize those things, and then you can deal with them consciously far easier. Let me give you some examples. It's said that the average smoker takes 30 attempts before they manage to stop smoking, but a lot of the time smoking is associated with being a time filler when you're bored. People are always bored, and it's associated with stress relief when you've got problems because of the nicotine, obviously. So, adult life is stressful. It's a fact. It's going to be that way. So you can't just necessarily go, well, I'm just going to reduce and get rid of all the stress and then I won't smoke anymore. And that's what makes it so hard. But you need to think about, when are them points throughout the day that you do get bored? And why is that? How can you replace them with a different behaviour? Possibly replace them with something else. I know a lot of people quite successfully use nicotine gum. People have other strategies and stuff like that too. But again, this is like the first point. You want to shape the environment, but you want to know when those relapses are most likely to happen. Now, when you know they're most likely to happen, it becomes far easier to deal with them and, just own up and accept quite adultly, okay, I cocked up, relapsed, went and had a fag, if we're talking about smoking in terms of discipline, and then you can readdress the situation and get back on the horse, which is a huge point, and that's what I want to make note of within this tip here, is you need to get back on the horse as quick as possible, carry on like it didn't even happen. That happens with everything. It's happened to me in trading when I've blown banks and stuff like that, and it will happen to everybody else in other walks of life. So in terms of a diet, for example, if you slip up late night, again, it's usually boredom when it comes to dieting and making mistakes, or if you're fed up, or if something's gone wrong. Again, don't allow yourself the environment, but know when your trigger's most likely, and then you can say to yourself, I'm about to do it. No, I'm not going to do it this time. Or if you do, get back on and say, okay, it's a case of constantly reassessing, going around the cycle, changing the variables, the environment, what it is, understanding yourself that little bit further, and you go round and round and round, because it's not an overnight thing. It's not a case of at the end of this video you'll be sorted. That's just ridiculous. People have been trying to solve discipline problems for years, decades and longer. So it's understanding yourself. It's a longer term process. You need to understand that. In terms of overspending and earning money, all that kind of stuff, a lot of the time people, as I mentioned in the previous video actually, which was quite popular, if you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out, how to win financially. Overspending and keeping up with other people, keeping up with the Joneses, as they call it, to impress people with materialistic things that you don't necessarily need a lot of the time, is a huge problem. And although it won't make you super wealthy, it will certainly make you more efficient financially, training that financial discipline muscle, if you want to call it that. So knowing where the relapses are there, impressing other people, or things that might drive you to make a bit of a foolish decision, particularly if you're emotional. For traders do it all the time. If they've lost a little bit of money, feeling like they've left out, everybody's aware of FOMO, then you know that those points are the ones that are going to catch you out. So don't let them relapses happen, and understand those relapses more than anything else. So it's a case of refining the whole cycle, observing, learning about yourself, and then implementing some change. Now, if you put all these three together, remove the temptations and distractions, keep yourself motivated and know what actually drives and makes you tick in terms of maintaining discipline, really actually wanting it, and then controlling those relapses, recognizing them, ignore the ones that happen and moving on swiftly, then I can guarantee you become more disciplined as a person overall in all walks of life. And you want to maintain that and make sure that it does happen in all walks of life too, which is very important. Overall becoming a bit more of a disciplined machine. So if you found this video useful, please tap the like button down below and check out the next video, which is a lot more financially orientated, in the end screen here.